Simon. Upon his birth, that's the name they picked. But it didn't stick. Down the road a spell, this guy he'd come to meet decided Simon just wasn't quite right. So instead, he called him Pete. Now, Pete worked for his pop. They fished the seas, bringing up anything found marine. Tilapia, barbels, catfish, eel, biny, rays, sardines. Father and son kept the operation lean and mean, filled their nets, sold the catch, then went back and did it again. Little did they know, soon enough, Pete would be fishing for men. In his heyday, my man was running the church. He didn't need to search for authority. Everyone could see this guy was chosen, his human frailty nearly frozen behind an ironclad wall of faith and trust, nearly free of greed and pride and lust. It was clear to all he must be something of a saint. But that was imparted. It ain't how he started. His journey was not quite that quaint. Fact is, most of what we know of this guy had him lumbering and stumbling, full stop, impulsive, arrogant, vain, aggressive, consummate bull in a china shop. I mean, Pete was a mess, emotionally erratic, sensitive, fearful, frail. The dog was wagging the tail. He'd cry and he'd wail. His will was a jail. He'd constantly fail. Pete, a classic cautionary tale. So before you decide you've become obsolete, because you're so replete with years of deceit and being indiscreet, and those you mistreat, or the people you cheat, or the way you overeat, or the fluid you excrete, before you get too downbeat, hear this: you can't compete with Pete. First, and this is far from the worst, Pete was a know-it-all, always trying to be on the ball, yapping his trap without any forethought, then finding himself caught, short of information, looking like a suck-up, with no real sense of his station. Jesus asks the boys who they think he might be. Pete's hand springs up. Ooh, ooh, pick me. What you got, Pete? You're the Christ, says he, rather smugly, till he's questioned by JC. Good, Pete. You mind explaining that to the team? I mean, exactly what that means. Pete looked like he was going to be sick. Dude shut up right quick. But not for long. Shortly after, singing a similar song. Yo, Jesus, you need like a vice president, right? I think I'd be out of sight. Let me do it. Please, please. I wanna. Like, what's the savior look like? Barack Obama? Man, I'd have smacked the guy right on his forehead. Boom. But Christ got patience like a doctor's waiting room. Though Pete finally gets a beat down, because Christ finally gets annoyed when Big Mouth Petey suggests he can avoid his eventual death on the cross that's waiting. Hey, Mr. Smarty Pants, why don't you get behind me, Satan? Oh, no, he didn't. You bet he did. He had to drop some knowledge on old Petey, kid, because this ignoramus, destined to be famous, had to learn his words were cheap. He kept making promises he couldn't keep. Standing watch up in Gethsemane, Pete goes and falls asleep. His master's battling the devil and singing God the blues, and my man decides to take a snooze, and he ain't done. Nowhere near. He was told Christ's capturers were soon to appear. He was told to adhere. He was told there was nothing to fear. But he still goes off half-cocked, slices off a soldier's ear. His boy is less than 12 hours from the hardest part, and he's got the poor guy reattaching body parts. Was that enough to make him fall in line? Not that time. No, Pete wasn't yet ready to flip the script, because my brother got himself a sense of showmanship. His selection of screw-ups was not yet past. Turns out Pete was holding back the best for last. Ta-da! His coup de grace in any patois, a borderline coup d'etat. While his buddy hung there, just awaiting to die, when asked, Petey claimed, I never heard of that guy. And if you're thinking to yourself, dang, that ain't nice, well, he didn't do it once, and he didn't do it twice. I ain't even playing. Don't you be knowing by the time the cock was crowing, 3 times by Pete Jesus was denied. And then he died. So you feeling any better about your own mistakes? You think you got what it takes to go toe-to-toe with our good friend Pete? Any chance you got him beat? And if you're so hopeless, what did he deserve? What should Pete have gotten for the way he served? Forget what he deserved. Look at what he actually got. What was he given for his sins by the one from above? Execution? Hatred? How about forgiveness and love? There on the beach, they ran into each other, and Christ said to Pete, I am mad at you, brother. And you know why Pete found he was cool with his Savior? Because he didn't try to justify unfortunate behavior. No pride, He didn't hide. He did what Christians do. The veteran, the beginner. Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, have mercy upon me, a sinner. And here's the kicker. What Pete asked for when he was trying to live large, his new humility prepared him for, and Christ put him in charge. See, while Pete seems like a loser, like a fool, a goon, a cartoon, falling over on his face, Peter is a picture, the proof of the power of the glorious gift of grace. The love of the Father is eternal and relentless, a force with which nothing can compete. We're imperfectly designed. Our mistakes are intrinsic. If you find yourself in doubt, think of Pete.